Live. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Crossword Bookstore and the Crossword Bookstore, sorry, and Westland Publication, I'm so glad to have a chat with Preeti Shenoy. Uh, Preeti Shenoy needs no introduction, basically, but still, she has so many things to be talked about. So I thought I'd just take a few seconds to introduce her. It's my pleasure to introduce her. She has been listed by the Forbes as one of the influencers, and she is the sole woman bestseller amongst Indian English fiction. So I'm ever so glad to meet Preeti on behalf of every reader and every viewer. So welcome to the show, Preeti.
Thanks a lot, Meera. And as always, it's a pleasure connecting with you. I was with Meera at a crossword in Chennai, and that was much before COVID times. It just feels like another century to me. So,
Yes.
and then after that, I met her again at Times Lit Fest in Bangalore. So, it's always a pleasure to speak to Meera, and now it's a pleasure to connect virtually as well. And a big hello to everyone who is joining in. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining in.
Right. I would like to start with a quote which I love from Preeti's book, which we are promoting today. Sometimes a journey back is a step forward. So I would like Preeti to take that journey back, to step forward, to tell us about how these two books were made. Today, I know that Preeti has many books to her credit, but we have picked Rulebreakers and 100 Little Flames to talk about today. Yes, you can see those books there, bright and clear. I think, Preeti, can you just hold it for one more second? I would just like to tell them that wonderful scarf. The last time I spoke to her, she said that she actually bought that scarf for that Rule Breakers. And then this 100 Little Flames, this is a new edition, I guess. The older one has her Tarawat kind of picture,
Yes,
the ancestral
so
home.
absolutely.
Yes. So I think so many thoughts have gone into the cover. So they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I think you could jolly well do that for Preeti's books, because why I'm saying this is because she's a diverse personality. She's interested in art. She does quilling. She does pencil portraiture. So you can understand the artist, both the writer and the artist together in the books. So Preeti, I just want to introduce you as there is more to an individual than how they are related to us. So there is more to Preeti, the author, which is what we are going to discover today. So may I just ask you this question? What actually triggered you to write 100 Little Flames? It's a very unconventional, out of the box kind of story. So what was the trigger point?
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't read Hundred Little Flames, let me just tell you in a brief, in a few brief sentences what the book is about. So
Right.
the book has a very unusual protagonist, octogenarian. He's a grumpy old man in his 80s, Gopal Shankar. And, it's the story unfolds through his relationship with his grandson, who is 26-year-old Ayan. So when 26-year-old Ayan is sent to live with his grumpy old grandfather Gopal Shankar in a tiny village in Kerala, he is understandably devastated. What can a sleepy, remote village without even internet connectivity offer a young man? So that's how the story begins. And to make matters worse, his domineering father has plans of his own. Ayan must now come to term with hard realities of life and the blindness of greed. And grandson and grandfather must together learn that life can unravel in unanticipated ways. So this story is a very, very different kind of a story. And it was the old cover, which we then changed into this cover to keep in line with, all my other books because, we did an entire, makeover for all the books. So basically, see, in this cover, you can see I have taken a lot of it from my own ancestral home in Kerala, which looks something like this. This is an old rocking chair. Anyone from Kerala will be familiar with this. So, what Meera asked was, how did I get the idea to write this? So sometimes, sometimes ideas just come from nowhere, but sometimes you can spot the exact moment when you decide to write the book. So I remember this a couple of years back. I had gone for a walk and I was just thinking about what my mother had told me. You know, my mom lives in Kerala. So she was telling me that there is something in Kerala which I was shocked to hear. Okay. It was called, what they call it is Nadatallal. So basically, they take old people and they take them to a temple and they abandon them there and they never come back. Okay. The old people are looked after because they get 2 meals a day, and I was like very shocked when I heard it. So, and okay, before we jump and jump to conclusions, only if you have cared for an old person will you know what it entails, especially when there are, when you come from the lowest sections of the society, when there are too many mouths to feed and all that. It's unforgivable. Of course, it's unforgivable. But sometimes you can also step into the other side and see their story. And then when I came home, I kept thinking about it, okay? And a couple of days later, I have my dad's old diary, which write recipes in. So I had torn out a few pages from that. So I kept thinking about, and my grandfather used to keep a diary. So I remembered that, and I remembered this, and all of this like came together beautifully in a story. I said, these old people who are now neglected by society, they have stories to tell. Who is going to listen to their stories? Who is even going to pay attention to those stories? So that was what prompted the thought behind 100 Little Flames. And this book was picked by Vogue as must read books. It was one of the 5 books which Vogue suggested as must
Wow.
read. Yeah, it's come as an audio book too. And
Vogue, sorry to butt in, Preeti. Vogue seems to have a kind of an image which is all about glitz and glam and everything else. So
but they
if it has
recommend
picked
books
this,
too.
yes, if it has
Yeah, they
picked this
recommend books.
book, yes, I think it's really a meaningful thing to say.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
were
yeah.
saying,
Yeah, so that's all. So no, and this book has been so well received. It was launched in Birmingham. The cover was launched in Birmingham at the Birmingham Literature Festival. And since it is so different, because I think this was the first time I was foraying into what can be termed literary fiction, probably, like to
yeah,
use technical terms, because this
yes,
book is much, it's very different from my other books. So the other
yes,
books probably they were like this book has a very different feel to it, different rhythm to it, different pace to it, and you are completely transported into Kerala, into that small Pungavaram village, the imaginary village where it's set. And then you travel to Pondicherry. Like thousands of people wrote to me saying that they really felt they were there, and
yes,
many of them visited those places. So
yes.
anyway, that was the idea behind this book, Meera, 100 Little Flames, and
Yes,
how
thank you. That was definitely a kind of a live preface to the book. You've also said all great men keep diaries. It gives a sense of direction. It documents where your days went, and it serves as a tool for self improvement. You've said that
yes,
in the book, and I
yes,
think she's inspired by like every little princess of her dad. I think she's inspired by her dad's diary to write this. Why I'm saying this is she has brought in this aspect of maintaining a diary as well as letter writing in this book. So I actually have this question, though I'm comparing both the books because we are going to talk about both the books. Both the books are like epistolary novels, as they call.
yes.
Vidya, who is a character in Rulebreakers, she is the protagonist's sister. She writes a lot of wonderful letters, as well as Suraj, another character, writes letters. And in 100 Little Flames, Ayan picks up the letters from the diary. So, Preeti, we all know, is very tech savvy. She is very well connected with internet, and she's a blogger, and she's made the best use of social media. So my question is, how come you have selected snail mail? Though the impact is wonderful, I want to know what inspired you to use that as a technique.
Yeah, so see, when I grew up, okay, I'm much older than I look. So when I grew up, there was no television, there was no internet, okay. It was only when I was 15 or something I even saw a television. So I used to write letters to my grandfather, and my grandfather used to maintain diaries. And
Right.
my grandfather's book and all is exactly like how it's described in 100 Pages. Only one grandchild was allowed even to go to that book's cupboard. He had this large collection of books. And that grandchild was me because I was the very responsible one, okay? And books were like a treasure to me. So if I take any book, my grandfather was in the army, so he was very particular. He had that army discipline. You have to keep it back, and so and he also owned the printing press at that time. So books
Okay.
were his life. So I kind of inherited that, and we used to write letters to each other on those inland letters. Okay, and
Right.
children now don't even know what inland letter is. I don't think my kids know what an inland letter is. And so we used to post the letter, and I used to wait for letters from my grandfather. And when I went back to my native place in Kerala, I would go to this cupboard and secretly I would take his diaries and read,
Okay.
and then I quickly give it back. And the year I was born, I quickly took out and saw on my birthday what has he written, and it was such an amazing thing. And thing
Okay.
is, I have also always kept diaries. Right from when I was 16, I have kept diaries for all the important events in my life. Everything is recorded. So I have this habit of writing diaries. So for me,
Right.
internet happened. It was this amazing thing. Oh my God, you don't have to post a letter and wait for it. And we are all. I think, Meera, we are all.
Belonging to.
I don't think the natives know what can be the beauty of letter writing, a beauty of journaling. So I keep talking
Yes.
about journaling as a tools for self improvement. I mean, in my Instagram posts and all of that, one advice I have for writers is write, record, simply because
Right.
it gives direction to your life. Otherwise, see what happens is one day merges into the second day, merges into the third day. You have no idea what you did. So when you
Correct.
write it down, you have certain goal, you have a direction, you know where to steer yourself. So in both these books, I have explored both diaries and letters.
Letter
Actually,
writing.
diaries more in this book
Yeah.
and
In
letters
100.
in this one. Yeah.
Yes, yes. In the letters in Hundred Little Flames are like a kind of a flashback technique also, which is what I would like to talk in a little while. But before that, just as a quick comparison, Preeti, from what I understood, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Both of them are like period novels. Although it starts with Ayan in Behran and the party and everything, then he goes back, and then it is like stepping back into the past. Whereas Rule Breakers is deliberately set in the 90s where life style everything else is different. So couple
Yes.
of questions. One,
Yeah.
both of them are period novels set in the past. Both of
Right.
them have this epistolary method of letter writing.
Right.
Both are small town, Joshimath and the village in Kerala,
Right.
and both are about family
Right.
and bonding, though in different ways. So
Right.
is there a message that you are trying to tell us through all of these patterns, these dots?
No, not really. See, when I set out to write a book, I'm really not thinking about the message, but I'm thinking of, I'm thinking of the story. And
Right.
usually, what happens is in the book, what comes out is what is most important to you. So I
Right.
am a person who values relationships a lot, who values family life a lot. And what is surprising, Meera, is that
Yes.
even though the book is set in the 90s, okay, so
Right.
while researching for this book, so I wanted to know will it be relevant to our current times. So I
Right.
put a Facebook post saying that tell me your worst mother-in-law stories. So I
Okay.
didn't, because I was very conscious that I don't want this book to become like a Sas Bahu kind of a thing. Because there
Exactly.
because I was very aware of that. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, I want to know what is happening current. And when I put it and I put a Google Forms out there where people could leave anonymous comments.
Right.
Oh my God, I was shocked at what goes on even today. Okay, I was really
Hmm.
shocked at some of the stuff. And I got notes from UK, from faraway places where, this kind of cruel mother. And, it just made this mother-in-law who's cruel look like an angel in
Hardly anything.
comparison.
Yeah.
People got a place to vent and tell anonymously. So I was shocked. So I said,
Right.
okay, this is what goes on. And yeah, so I feel these things are like very, very relevant, and it's important to talk about these things. Now, I set it in the 90s because I said, who got married maybe in the 90s, okay, never really had a choice, Mira. Everyone was
Correct.
conditioned, okay. If you were a
Correct.
girl born in the 70s, okay, there is no choice to not get married. Today, I think
Yes.
girls have a choice. It's better.
Yes.
In urban
Yes.
areas, in rural areas, it's still the same. Girls get off
Correct.
married at 16, 17, even though there's a law, girls just get married. So I feel
Yes.
this gender inequality still exists very much. Okay,
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
just gender inequality, gender inequality. I mean, people are not going to do anything about it. And anyway, novel is the slowest form of change. But
Correct.
if I can make impact, if I can make an impact on the minds of people, on the lives of people, tell their stories, then I feel, I feel my aim has been achieved. And lots of girls wrote to me saying that they find it inspiring. A lot of girls from small towns, Meera.
Yes.
I felt very good about that because they're able to connect to Veda. Because what
Yes.
happened, yeah, their dreams, girls' dreams don't matter, honestly.
True.
You might
True.
live in an urban, in an urban world, you might live and you might say that, no, no, there's nothing like that. What is she talking about? But the reality is, if you get off from your ivory towers and go and see reality at the ground level, that is
True.
what it is. If you are
True.
a girl,
Very.
yeah. So
Very
I want,
true. In fact, I think you have mentioned all of this. These are problems, whether they started in the 90s or you're a woman of 2020. Maybe
yeah,
the tone and tenor might have changed. But
right,
fundamentally, the bane of arranged marriages, the question of education, the importance given to a woman's career, especially if she's going to work in something like an NGO, your sankalp in that book makes a
yes,
huge difference to a
yes.
person's career. Is it okay? Is that the rule breaking moment for Veda, according to you? Because I felt when she was looking at Sankalp and when she was looking at helpless people, more helpless people than her, when she was looking at Kajol, I mean, those of you who have not read the book, kindly go and read the book, but I have to use the names here. Yeah, so there is this young girl called Kajol who is a direct opposite for Veda's very complacent, rule following personality. She's such a
Yeah,
brilliant foil. So, do you think that going to Sankalp and meeting Kanika is what you would start as the game changer for Veda? That's how I
yeah.
felt when I read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because see, it's yeah, see Veda, then there's Vidya. Vidya is the firebrand, as in
Firebrand.
the book, because she's the one who will defy, who will say, "I'll do this. What will happen?" And
Yes,
typically, it's the older child, second child. Older child will usually follow the rule and all of that. Second child will
correct.
usually, his parents are a little more relaxed with the second child. And yeah, I would say that when Veda joins Sankalp, and slowly she starts changing. We see that how the lives of those children are changing along with her life. How it's very subtle, she's slowly
Yes,
getting the courage to,
correct.
even tell her mother-in-law something to, because that is giving her confidence. And other thing is, she always wanted to be a teacher. So
Teacher,
she's
correct.
becoming a teacher in a different way and making a difference in the lives of these children. And slowly, it unfolds.
Right. And most of the characters are stereotypical to that era that you have taken, and it is all
Right.
viable. But I would not like to give a spoiler, but Bhuvan's character is so starkly different. And
Yeah, yeah.
how did you even think of it? I mean, did you want it deliberately or it just evolved?
Bhuvan, see, I didn't want a character. See, like if you take Secret Wishlist, okay, now this
Yes,
was
yes,
third book or something. So what happened is, a lot of women can relate to this book, but
yes.
and a lot of men also. They said we never had no idea we were like Sandeep. But then what I had done as a writer was, I had taken the bad qualities of all the men I know and just put it into that Sandeep. Okay, that poor Sandeep is such a negative person that he has nothing. Okay, whereas Bhuvan is not like that. Bhuvan
He's not
can't.
at all. Yeah,
No, he's sensitive. He's kind. He's this thing. But see, you might, even if your husband is sensitive, kind, and all of that, doesn't mean that you will have the connection and you'll have a great marriage. That's the point
true.
of marriage.
The inadequacy of a relationship is vastly different from the individual. That is what I wanted to say. You
Yeah.
may have any kind of individuals, but when they get into a relationship, then it can turn out to be a make or a break. So this question to you, Preeti, what actually fascinated you to talk about relationships? There are writers and writers. There is
Hmm.
mystery, there is historical, there is fantasy, there is etc etc, various genre. You've picked relationship, and before you answer this question, I would like to tell the viewers this. She is so good on relationships. She really lives it. Okay, I just met her randomly for an interview. She has kept in touch. She talks a lot about growing wings and flying, but she is grounded to the feet. feet to the ground. Her feet is grounded. So that's how we actually decided to chat up today. So she lives what she preaches. So I would really like to know and ask you to talk, because I don't think any of your reader or viewer would forgive me if I don't ask you this question about, what fascinates you about relationships.
See, I really feel no matter how much success you have achieved, no matter what you have achieved, okay, at the end of the day, if you don't have someone to share it with, someone who values your success in the same way that you value it, you are going to be all alone. Okay, you might you might be staying in the fanciest of hotel rooms, you might be having a fleet of Ferraris and BMWs and all of that. But
Right,
I think life becomes more meaningful if you have genuine, authentic connections. At the end of
right.
the day, like when you leave this world, you're not going to take your BMWs and Ferraris and go off. Like, what is it?
True.
You are only the memories you leave behind. You're only the changes that you bring to people's lives. So I always feel that's important, and it's fascinating to me how human relationships are, because when we become close to a person, we also become possessive. Then there's jealousy. Then there's
Correct.
the other factor of two people growing. Okay, two people in a
Right.
relationship, both grow at the same time. That's fine. This thing is maintained. But very often, we are not the same person we are. At the end of the day, we have changed. We are not
Correct.
that person we were at the start of the day. So if there's an unequal growth, then there's a gap. Then what
Yes.
was once precious becomes, a thing for it becomes a thorn in your side. So all these issues, I mean, it's so complex. I can write like hundreds of stories, I feel. And the thing is, everyone is able to relate, Meera. Everyone is able to
Yes.
relate to these things. Every single person experiences this. We all have
Absolutely.
families. Okay, we all like at some point of time have fallen in love, or even the most cynical of us have experienced something. So I feel
Yes.
it's such a relatable topic. You can grow so much from it. You can learn so much from it, and you can write it in a very interesting manner, not just a silly boy meets girl college romance, which is
Correct.
like so many of them in the market. So I
Yes.
really wanted to write in this space, but write something completely different, deep, emotional, something that you can connect to. And the
Right.
result has been these books. And in
Yes,
that's
many
yours.
others. And
Huh?
the results
Yeah,
have been these two books and many others. So
yeah.
those, yeah. uh, I think books that each of us would love to keep in our bookshelf. And as she rightly said, whenever we have relationship issues, it's not that you need to go to a psychiatrist. It is like an everyman's problem. I
Yeah,
mean, you just read some of them and you say, hey, why not? And then you have
yeah,
an aha moment and say, yeah, this is what I'm looking for.
yeah,
So I guess that way you sit right in our shoulder and keep whispering in your soft voice your writing. So I guess questions are there, as in 100 Little Flames is the most interesting book. That's what Jayanti Ramesh has said. And there is an Atharva who says, Preeti ma'am, I am your big fan. I think he is representing a lot of other people who are your fans. Just moving on, you were talking about Sandeep and all the villainous qualities, but in both these books, you don't have a manifest villain. You
yeah,
can possibly have a Jairaj with a little askew thought, and
yeah.
you probably have nobody in Rule Breakers. So, how do you look at this kind of characterization? I mean, many books talk about the good and the bad, but yours
Yeah.
is always gray. So,
No, because I realized with secret wish list, you can't really have black and white, yeah, because life isn't black and white. Nobody is
correct,
all good or all bad. See, and
correct,
even in Hundred Little Flames, okay, a lot of people love to say that Jairaj is the villain. But
yes,
actually, if you look at it, okay, what is Ayan doing? See, as an Indian parent, you want them to
yes,
stand on their own feet, you want them to earn. So what is
correct,
this boy doing? He's just goofing off. He has no life plan. He has
right,
nothing. He's just happy to drift along. It's not like he has his life sorted. So
right.
is what Jairaj doing so wrong? I'm not so sure. And Gopal Shankar, yeah, because Gopal Shankar is not exactly the A
A
kindest or nicest of
protagonist,
people.
a nice person. Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is what every man, every woman that we meet is basically someone we can bump across on the road, which is what leads me to the next question. You know,
yeah,
all your support characters in Bollywood and in the Oscars, you have the
yeah,
support actress actor award, right? In your
yeah,
books you have Kanika, you have a Velu who actually brings out both Gopal Shankar and Ayan's qualities, and
yeah,
then you have a Vidya who is
yeah,
as good or better initially than Veda. Till Veda
yeah,
evolves, we
yeah,
actually love Vidya more.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how do you actually weave? For I know most authors take a lot of effort in creating their protagonist or antagonist, but then
yeah.
these support characters, how do you actually weave them? What inspires you?
Uh, what inspires me, see, when pay equal attention to these supporting characters as much as I pay attention to the protagonist. See, I
Protagonist.
have a character because see, they have to feel real. Okay,
True.
supporting characters, and then supporting characters are not there just to advance the story or just to say the things
Exactly.
that hero can't say.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yes.
not realistic. Yeah, in our real life, from our viewpoint, we have our friends. Okay, so all
Yes.
of us do
Yes.
have supporting characters in our lives. So my books reflect real life, and so my supporting characters are also as real as the
Correct.
protagonists. And
Yes.
they're not always friends, or they're not always teachers or someone like that. There can even be someone who is your house help, because see, Gopal
Yes.
Shankar is a lonely old man.
Man.
Then
Yes.
this Avelu, who is everything to him. Okay, he takes care of him. He's his cook, come butler, come personal assistant, come chauffeur, come everything. So
Actually,
obviously,
Velu brings out the softer aspect of Gopal Shankar, is what I
yes,
felt. Till
yes,
actually Ayan realizes it. So he's more like a mirror to the good qualities of Gopal Shankar. So most of your Kanika is another surprise factor that you have woven in. So I
yeah.
guess those are things which interest me a lot. So this one more question related to your writing and the book is: do you think the characters move you or the plot moves you when you're writing or when you're finishing? Which one would you prefer? You would look at yourself as a person who weaves the best of the plots, or a person who actually projects the best of the characters? How would you categorize yourself?
So I think both are interwoven, because to be honest, what
True.
happens after I create the
Yeah.
characters just come alive. So many a
Yes.
time I would have the story mapped out, okay, but then when
Okay.
I start writing, the characters are so real that they just do what they want, and then it's a big
Right.
struggle for me to kind of rein them in. And so sometimes it changes, sometimes the whole thing changes. So I would say, yeah, they are character driven, because at the end of every book of mine, the character
Yes.
grows in some way. Okay, and
Yes.
that's what adds to the plot. See, in this book, Ayan has grown. In this book, Veda has grown.
Veda has grown.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah. So, in fact, the more rounded the characters are, the better it is. That's what literary fiction also says, right? When you
yeah,
analyze a character, when they are linear, they fail to make an impact on us. When they
yeah,
change, that's when you really understand, well, life is worth living all over again, after
yeah. Yes.
reading the books. Divya has asked a question, Preeti. I would like to know how you select your book titles. I would also like to know. Most of them are so amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So actually, that's a long and a complicated story. So you just become wiser with every book. Okay, my first
Okay.
book was called 24 Bubblegums and Candies.
Bubble gums and candies.
No one can remember. And in Delhi, they made it, Are wo bubblegum wali book dena. Okay. That's how they started. Then, all they'll say 36 bubblegums, or they'll say 24 bubblegums. It was really 36, like, no one will remember it. So then I said, okay, fine, I need a better title. So second book was called Tea for Two and a Piece of Cake. And I
Yes.
thought that was a great title because I was only one book old, okay? So that,
Yeah.
no, life is what you mean. Third book was called Tea for Two. So I thought, okay, tea for two and a piece of cake, no one can confuse it. But of course, people get confused with that, okay? Two cups of tea, one tea and one cake. So I said, okay, fine.
It almost becomes their favorite menu list.
Yeah, then I said the title has to be such that it captures the essence of the book. It has to be short, it has to be striking. And in your life, you should not forget the title. So then
Absolutely.
so then I said, okay, the one you cannot have. You never
Yes.
forget the title. The one
No,
that
so
completely
yeah.
strikes you. Secret wish list. Again, you will never
Yes.
forget this title.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and then I became like just smarter with titles. Why We Love the Way We Do. Again, this is a non-fiction book. Incidentally,
Yeah.
guys, all these books are available at crossword.in. You
Yes.
just check the order. I think they'll deliver it by evening. The crossword in your
Right.
store. City. Because of COVID, you may not be able to go to crossword, but crossword would come to you with all these books. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's how I choose my titles because it has to have a punch, it has to capture the essence, it has to be memorable, and it has to be something you won't forget.
Yes, yes,
So,
and
so
yeah, it's more like something etched in your mind.
my,
Okay, so I suppose Divya is happy with this. So, can I just quickly ask you some rapid fire questions,
sure, sure.
Preeti?
That's
Yeah,
always
so
fun. So anyway,
so
yeah.
something to do with you as a personality, of course, with your books. So your one writer's quirk, if you want to tell us.
Writer's quirk. I always finish what I start.
Wonderful. This is not something that anyone can say. It's more than a quirk, it's a goal.
Yeah. This is
Yeah,
how I have to finish it.
that's right. So, you are though you always keep saying that you hate to advise. I'm sure there are a lot of people seeking your advice, your opinions, and then I'm sure there are a lot of aspirants talking to you. I'm one such aspirant myself. That sometime in my life I'm going to write a book. I don't know when. So, for aspirants like us, what is your one word of advice?
See, set a goal. Okay, set a word count limit. If you have started a book, first you have your plot and all of that, and
Right.
don't budge from your chair till you reach the goal for the. Suppose you have
Right.
a goal of 2,000 words. I mean, do not get up. Yeah, prioritize your writing over everything else,
Everything
and
else.
that's the only way to do it because otherwise you
Right.
never write it. And also, the advice I have is don't try to make it perfect because that can happen in the second rewrite, third rewrite, fourth rewrite. If you don't have anything written, how can you rewrite? Okay, so
Correct.
that is for
Yeah.
people who want to complete a book. People who want to be writers, who have never written, who want to be writers,
Yeah.
read a lot. Read at least 100 books before you write one book.
One
Write
book.
every single day. Every single
Right.
day, write. Whether it's diary or whether it's blog post or whether it's email, you need not show it to the world. But unless you write, because reading muscle and writing muscle are two
Must-
different muscles in your brain, you have to
Okay.
strengthen them by doing it
Both.
every day. Just because
Mm.
you're a good reader doesn't mean you'll automatically become a good writer,
Good
you know?
writer. Correct.
You have to kind
Yeah.
of do this. So, this is my little bit of advice which I have for aspiring writers and for people who want to complete a book. I hope
I
it
think
helps.
that's a wonder. Yeah, I'm sure it would because she's made a point by being a prolific writer, and recently she's also posted in her Insta about her fitness, and she's been doing that regularly. So it works for her. I'm sure readers and viewers it'll work for us too. Right. The next one. Your all-time favorite relationship quote. It can be your personal one or something else that you've read. If you say
Oh,
that this is one thing that I want to share.
yeah, so I don't know about relationship quote, but usually what happens is in most of my books, at the
Yes.
start, there will be
Yeah.
usually a poem, and that
Yeah.
is something I really like. For
Yeah.
example, in Secret Wishlist, it's a poem by Emily Dickinson. Hark, we
Right.
will forget him, you and I tonight. You may forget the warmth he gave, I'll forget the light. When you have done, pray tell me that I may straight begin. Haste, lest while you're lagging, I remember him. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
easy to say forget, but it's very
Yes.
hard to implement. And similarly, like every one of these books has a
Have
quote.
one thing or the other.
Yeah,
And it's all in the
Lansing says,
planets. I think
yeah.
has plenty of quotes in it. It's all in the planets, all your zodiac predictions and everything.
Oh yeah. True.
Uh,
And that
uh,
has two lines. One is by
yeah.
E. Cummings. Uh,
Yes.
I fear no hate, for you are my hate. You are my fate, my sweet. And
Right.
Pablo Neruda. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. You know,
Yeah,
beautiful quote.
yeah, Neruda, I don't think anybody can beat him in his sayings.
Yeah.
Yes. The next question for your rapid fire, Preeti, is self publication. Good, bad,
Yeah.
ugly, indifferent. What's your take?
I wouldn't recommend it if you can get a traditional publisher. So I wouldn't recommend it simply because it actually depends on what your goal is, Meera. If you just
Okay.
want to call self-published author and you're getting rejected by everyone and you don't care about being accepted in the industry and all of that, and you
Right.
just want to publish a book, then self-publish. But if you
Okay.
care that you want your book, see, because logistics and all of that the publisher handles. So if you
Right.
self-publish, I don't know how many of you have watched this show FOMO Shots. In that, there's
Yes.
a nice, season two has this very nice thing where Damini, I won't give out any spoilers in case someone is,
Not
a fan of
watched.
shots. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you should watch that, and it's exactly what is shown in that.
Right. Preeti, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I introduced you as an influencer, right? So being an influencer, does it take a toll on you? Is it like you should always be in your best behavior types?
No, no, not at all. I'm just
No,
myself.
you're
I
just
don't even
yourself.
think about it. Like, it's only others who give me all these labels. Yeah, Forbes has said I'm the most influential celebrity, 100 influential Indians and all that. I don't
Yes,
give
yes.
myself any labels. For
Okay.
me, I'm just Preeti. I'm just a writer. I am a mom to my two kids. And my dog. When I say my dog doesn't see any of this. My dog just sees whatever I say.
Yeah,
And
the best friend.
yeah, seriously, I don't
I
even think
think
about it,
I
frankly.
think that's a wonderful answer. So unceleb like. Anyway, what's your take on? I'm sure you noticed that a few of your contemporary writers have been serialized. So your take on OTT?
What is OTT?
Over the top, these Netflix, Amazon, you're serializing one of your books in, say,
Yeah,
Netflix or Amazon.
yeah, I don't mind at all. In fact, my agency is speaking to a few producers, and we're on the verge of closing it when this
Okay,
deal and all of that happen. So at some point, it will happen.
it will
So
happen.
yeah, it's
So
a good thing. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
good
it's
thing.
likely. Yeah, it's a
But
good
I
way
would,
to reach.
yeah, I would like it to be well made. I'm very particular about that because I said no to so many people because I didn't like their work. So I'm very
Right.
particular. So I am in talks with someone whose work I really love.
Right.
So yeah,
So
so
can we take it that in Crossword this show we can have some expectations to see you on small screen, big screen soon?
you know what? It's fine, small screen, big screen, but first go read all these books.
All these books, yeah.
Then you'll give me a thumbs
Very
up.
well said. Very
Then
well
you can
said.
discuss. Yeah, yeah.
Very,
After
very
reading
well
the book,
said.
we discuss which was better and all of that.
True,
Just
true,
yeah,
true.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now I just said this because we have also people of this generation who have more visual appeal rather than a book. So whatever
Right.
messages that you're giving is basically for the next gen. So they shouldn't be missing out on it. I would deeply advise that they read your books, but then if it could reach
Yeah.
them through the other medium, then so be it. Right.
Yeah.
One small difference, only one. This is rapid fire between Preeti the author and Preeti the woman. I know you've said a lot, but still.
I'm not any of the main character in my books. I have to tell them.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah, some of
Everybody thinks that an author is writing a secret autobiography, isn't it? That's
yeah,
a common.
that's what it is. I'm like, how can I be Diksha and Veda and Vidya and Anjali and how can I be so many things? They say no, 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 but I can't this. And someone in some book launch came and said, "Oh, so your husband left you?" And then I didn't know what to say. I
Oh
said, "Yeah,
God.
yeah." I think people like it is strange. Now I don't care. Like they can say, I just
Yeah.
take it as a compliment.
Yeah,
Because it's
so
so
Preeti
funny.
is
Like,
Preeti, and Preeti the author is different, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
The
right.
two intersect. Two
They
intersect. It's always
yeah,
a journey.
obviously, yeah, they
Yeah,
intersect, yeah.
yeah.
And you are donning many caps. So how does it enrich you, Preeti, in your in every work? How does it complement your quilling, your painting, your writing? How does each one complement the other?
I don't do quilling anymore. Quilling was many years back, but I do
Okay,
portraits. You guys can check out my Instagram,
yeah,
Preeti Shenoy Art. So I do
yeah,
a portrait every day. So for a long time, I thought about it. Okay, how are these two? So initially, I used to think that my art is one part of me, my writing is one part of me. But then I realized that probably the power of observation comes from portrait. Because see,
correct.
portraits you have to be very detail oriented. Okay, even that 1 millimeter of difference in where you place your eye can change the entire face. So it's
Symmetry,
very
huh?
precise. You have to be very precise, and our face is not symmetrical. Like if you take a picture,
Correct.
So there are so many things that go into art, which probably find its way into my writing subconsciously. It's only when I
Okay.
thought about it that I realized, yeah, this is probably true because I
True.
don't do it deliberately. And
Right.
for me, and then people ask me about writer's block. So for
Yeah.
me, I never face writer's block because if I don't feel like writing, I'll go and paint or I'll go and do my
Okay.
exercise. Or see, right? It's only like I feel writer's block comes when people put this undue pressure on themselves.
Pressure on.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I have to write, I have to write, I have to write. Like if you
Yeah.
face the writer's block, go do something else. Go travel. Go take a break. Go. Don't even think about it. It's because it's only when your mind is relaxed, ideas are going to come. Okay, it's only in a relaxed mind. If your mind is this chaos where it's running in this direction, that direction, you're not going to get ideas and you're not going to be able to write.
Right. I think that's a very sensible point for, once again, for aspirant people, that you could not compel yourself and force yourself to write. When you write, you must be happy to write. I think that's a wonderful tip you've given. Just two more questions. You know that this present technology connects authors and readers. It has connected me and you. But also there is this flip side to it, that,
Yeah.
over familiarity, and,
Yes.
people, kind of pile on you and things like that. So how do you handle them, Preeti?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Okay, so when I feel like, see, I have right now, like I get so many messages. I try and reply to all, but then this thing of the readers think they're entitled to a reply. Okay, you didn't reply,
Yes.
you didn't reply. Yeah, I do try to reply. I have 48,000 followers. I'm not boasting, but it is difficult for me on a daily basis to keep
To
up
respond. Yes.
unless I give up my writing and I sit and respond to each one.
Yes.
But
Yes.
mostly I have realized they fall into certain categories. And then
Right.
I'm able to disassociate. Okay, like
Yeah.
it's just a
Okay.
standard reply. So,
Right.
my daughter will probably able to be able to say exactly what my replies
What
are.
you would reply?
Yeah, because she's heard me over and over and over. So then it becomes
Yes.
to that
It's very
person.
overwhelming. Yes. That's that's
To that
that's my
person,
question.
it's new. That person, it's new. But I've heard it like hundreds of times, so it's
True.
reply. So it doesn't affect me
Yeah.
too much. Really.
Yeah. Since we are promoting these books, your one favorite promo line, Preeti, for each of the books.
Just
Your
go buy
time.
them, guys. Just go buy them and read them. I don't have any promo lines. All I can say is
Okay.
they are engrossing stories. They're stories which you will be able to relate to, and they're quick reads. In the sense, my books go down very smoothly. Okay,
Yes.
that's what most people tell me, and that's
Yes,
what a lot of
yes.
people
I
tell me.
can
Like,
vouch for I can vouch for that. It's very simple and it is engaging and it is flowing. So I think those are other things.
deep, deep. At the same time, it's deep. It's not some
Deep, very,
shallow.
yeah, yeah, very, yeah. Because relationships are intense and deep, but to
Yeah.
simplify them is a big art. As they say, to write easy and simple is very difficult. It is a
Exactly.
difficult
So
art.
because there's a lot of work, Meera, which goes on. Because when I first write, it's not like that. Okay, there'll
Correct.
be complex words and all which I remove, which I prune, which I like. I make it palatable. I make it very nice and very like good to digest. Easily to be able to digest it.
Right. Do we have any questions? I'm done with my rapid fire. We are 42 minutes into the session. So, do we have any further questions?
I think on Facebook we'll be able to get it. I'm not sure if
Yes.
links are really showing up. I think there is
No,
some.
they are here, but I don't have too many here. But I think those of you who are not asking questions are missing an opportunity. There you are complaining that you're not able to reach out to her, and now that she is live and ready and gung ho about answering questions, I guess you need to make the best use of it. Otherwise, I would like to say that we need to thank Crossword once again and Westland for taking this effort to put this whole show together. And I think Preeti has been at her best as usual, very forthcoming. And Preeti, do you have anything to say to wrap up? What's the new book in the offing? Ravi Shankar wants to know.
Yeah,
Preeti, sorry.
the new book is already published and it was ready to be shipped out when we went into lockdown. And now we have a transport situation. And
Okay.
here's the thing, guys: bookstores are doing really badly. They have been badly hit because of COVID. So please support your local bookstore. So that's the reason we have not released it on Kindle, because if we release it on Kindle, the physical bookstores are going to be badly hit. So the
Correct.
new When Love Came Calling will be out in August. So in fact,
Yeah.
we had already taken pre-orders. It was about to be shipped when this COVID hit. So please support your local bookstores. Please order from your local bookstores, and Crossword will deliver books by evening, I think. So you can just go to
Yeah.
crossword.in, place your order for any of these books, and you can lose yourself in the pages of my books. Hopefully, they become a companion to you, and hopefully they help you in your life's journey.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much, Preeti. It was wonderful connecting with you. Hope to see you very soon. There is another question. Richa Tappa, love to hear you, Preeti. So that's another fan comment for you, Preeti. On that note, I think we can wrap up. Can we? There is someone, Chandan Shah. Hello, ma'am. When is your essay coming? Eagerly waiting to read that.
Yeah, so that will take, I don't know, you'll have to ask Westland, because Westland has commissioned me to write a couple of essays, and I'm in the process of writing it. So that'll probably take another 2, 3 months, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have any timeline for it. But yeah, I have already written the essays. You'll see it soon.
Yes. So Divya says thank you, and I think Preeti, we can wrap up. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Thank you
much,
so much,
Preeti.
Meera. Wonderful
Yeah,
sessions.
yeah.
Lovely
Thank
speaking
you.
to you as always.
Yeah, thank you. It was my
Bye.
pleasure too. Bye.